Hello, my name is Lin Nguyen. In this video I'm going to go over how to create a basic rig using Maya 2012. It appears the previous video I made was in 2011 and my students are using 2012 in the school. Some of them were a bit confused because of the options. They're a bit different than they were in the previous version of Maya. And again, they'll be changing once again when they get into Maya 2013. So this is essentially the same. The theories are the same. That has not changed. The only difference is some of the UI has been adjusted and moved around. So I'm going to create the basic rig using Maya 2012 in this video. So here's our character. I'm going to use my joint tool here. I've already set it. And when you're looking at Maya 2011 versus 2012, the joint tool right here already looks different. The settings in 2011 will have a drop-down menu right here that you can use none on top and all the different local transforms. The none is no different than turning on orient joint to world, because what is none? None is orienting your joint to the world axis. So that's exactly what none is. Whereas all these other extra ones are all your various different types of local transforms. In this case, I'll be using the local X, Y, Z to create his leg. And again, scale compensate, I turn this off, and I set all this to equal each other. The reason I'm doing this is so that when I take my rig and I want to take this over to 3ds Max or another program, that it transfers properly. Joint sizes might not matter inside of Maya, but other applications, joints might not necessarily be their own type of item. They might be a mesh, and the size of the mesh sometimes does make a big difference, especially when it comes down to skin weighting and whatnot. So from my experience, I've had to go between Maya and Max often. These are ideal settings to go between Max and Maya nicely. So I'm going to go in right here. I'm going to turn on my wireframe. And when you're creating joints, you generally want to keep it between wires, but sometimes you don't have an option over it. But try your best to keep it between the two lines and not on it. It deforms better that way. So with that being said, I'm just going to click my joint here, go where my knee is at, place one down, and for these you always want it to be right underneath the foot, because a lot of game engines and other programs that calculate collision with a floor, they calculate based off of your joint location and not your actual mesh. So if your joint is in the middle here, part of your skin will be going inside of the floor. So you want to make this go underneath the foot if possible. So I'm going to turn on my grid at this point, and I'm just going to hold X to snap it. And again, where the toe lifts off. I used to have it go past here, but again, if you do that, then when you lift the foot up, it's going to lift up from this toe point here, when you rather have it lift up from around here where the toe actually rolls off of the floor. From this point, I will rename all my joints. I'm going to turn off my grid right now and turn off my wire, so it's a lot easier to see my joints. I'm going to call this my, just keep it simple, keep everything lowercase, thigh joint, knee joint, ankle joint, ball joint, and toe joint. Alright, now we go ahead and create our IKs. In the previous video, I've also mentioned the possibility that you can create a new type of IK system that's not pre-built inside of Maya, and it's called the IK Spring Solver. Even if you go in here into your plugin manager and check the box on for IK Spring Solver, you'll still see it not pop up. So I just type in the script editor IK Spring Solver, and when you press enter, it'll store it. I've already done that on my end, that's why I highlighted blue. But if you haven't, it might not pop up blue, okay? So the first time you run it, it will all be pure white text, it won't be blue. And when you run it at least once, the next time you type it, it's been stored and it's been called already. What that allows you to do is, inside your IK handle options, you will have the extra spring solver. So, what do they do? If I were to create a leg like this, like you might see some of the creatures have or animals have, I'm going to duplicate this so I have two of them. I'm going to create one with an IK RP solver, and another one using the IK Spring Solver. And you can see the differences that they make. So if I move around this IK RP solver, you can see it doesn't exactly move the way we want it to. Whereas when I grab the IK spring solver, it creates and it bends all the joints like we want it to. So this is something I mainly use when it comes to rigging animal legs that have multi-joints like so. Okay, so for this type of leg, I'm just using IKRP, and I go from the thigh to the ankle, and from this point you have two options, either creating the IKSC across these or an IKRP. They both still work perfectly fine across the board. The IKSC stands for IK single chain solver. This is your rotate plane solver. But for a single joint chain, they work fine. In this case, I'm using the IKRP because that generally gives me better results than the IKSC has been giving me, especially with the later versions of Maya. I'm also going to shrink down my IK handle size because it's fairly large. Make that go down a bit. And I'm going to go back and rename all of these. We'll call this the ankle IK, ball IK, and toe IK. I'm keeping everything's lowercase, so it's a little bit easier on my end. And now I'm going to go in and create a controller for it. I'm going to go under curves, create a circle. Here you go, circle made. And I'm going to go in and move my pivot. So I'm going to hold D, V, just hold this back. And snap it exactly that. Or I'm going to move it back a little bit further. And I'm going to go ahead and modify and freeze my transformations. And I'm going to rename this to FootCon. With that being said, I'm going to go inside my hypergraph hierarchy just to make sure everything's all set up nice. You always want to go in here and make sure you don't have any extra random nodes. And now I'm going to parent this joint, these IK handles right there. I'm going to shift click this one last, and I'm going to parent them. So parent. The shortcut letter for that is P. So now that I move this around, it does kind of what I want it to do. It's pretty neat. Again, this is a simple setup. If you want to create the more complex leg setup, you can go inside and just watch my more complete leg setup. I'm going to go to my front view now. Go to my hierarchy. I'm going to select these two right here. And I want to group them. So edit, group. Then are one single group now. And I'm just going to move them where I need them to go. And I'm going to go to edit, typically special options, reset my settings, and I'm just going to check this box on here, duplicate input graph. This duplicates all the connections you have across the board from one leg or anything from, let's say, a node system from one side to the other. And I'm not going to do a negative scale, because if I do a negative scale, you have a inverted rotation. So I'm going to click apply. Put a negative right in front of it, and this will make both my legs essentially finished. So I'm going to go here now, and I'm going to click on this. Actually, I'm going to hierarchy. I'm going to click on the top group nodes right here. So this is my left. I'm going to click on this, modify prefix hierarchy names, and I'm going to type left, and again prefix hierarchy names, right underscore. Now I have both sides done. I'm going to my right view, and I'm going to create all my extra joints inside. So go under animation, joint tool, double click on this. I'm going to click on orient joint to world. Click on that. Go inside, and I'm going to create my spinal cord. Most of the bending happens in the lower vertebrae area, so your lumbar vertebrae. So here's my hip joint, my root, my low spinal cord joints. Then I'm going to skip right up, get my area in there, lower neck, the back of the head, top of the head. I'm going to press the up arrow key, go back down, click across, let's say you didn't do that and you finished your joint up here and you didn't press up and you didn't have this joint here. You just create your joint afterwards. Click this, shift click this joint. You want to parent them. Once you parent them, you have the same chain anyway, so don't worry about that. Now we also want to reroute our skeleton, because currently, if we were to move our hips around, it would move the whole entire skeleton, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to go back to my side view here, select my root joint I want it to be, go skeleton, reroute skeleton, and now I can rotate this freely without moving the entire skeleton around. I'm going to take these two, shift click this, edit, parent. Now I can rotate my hips however I want without moving my entire hierarchy. I'm going to rename my joints now. I'm going to call this my root. And here's my spinal one. So I'm going to go to my side view here. So I'm going to see where I am at. I can just copy all of this. And just press the, go to the next one, paste that, 2, 3, 4, 5, lower neck, head joint. I'll call this hat joint in case you want to put a helmet or whatever else underneath. It's easier to do it that way. Jaw joint and chin joint. It's pretty straightforward so far. Next thing I want to do is create the arms. So I'm going to my front view, go in here, double click on my joint tool, reset, so you can see all the settings again. Use an XYZ because the legs were XYZ, so I'm going to keep with that. If my legs were using YX X, then I would use YXX, but I'm using XYZ this time, so I'm keeping with that. I'm going to create my clavicle joint. Then I go straight to my shoulder. Top view. I'm going to watch where this is located. And I'm just going to move this back, just like so. And from there, I'm going straight to my front view. Joint tool. I'm going to click back on my shoulder. Click where my wrist is going to be at. Top view, make sure that's okay. I'm going to rotate this in. And each time you rotate something, you want to make sure and watch your transformations here. I'm going to have to go back and freeze my transforms. Now that's freezed again. Using my top view, I'm going to find out where my elbow is going to be at. If you can't figure that out, just look at your wireframe. And I'm going to slide a joint inside. I'm going to do skeleton, insert joint tool, click on my joint on top and drag it down. You cannot go from bottom up, you have to go from top down. I'm just going to move this back, go to my pivot mode, I'm just going to push this back a bit. When I do this though, I want you to pay attention to these little things right here. Their rotations don't change. So you want to go back, you want to select your hierarchy, freeze or transforms, go to skeleton, orient joint, options, and I want to use X, Y, Z, apply, and they'll reorient and look back at their joints like they're supposed to. Same thing for some of these right here. Again, skeleton, orient joint, and it'll reorient and look back at the child like it should be. Now go to my top view. I'm going to create my finger joints, and I'm going to create them from this main joint here. I'm going to shrink my joint size so they're a little bit smaller, so they go into the fingers a lot easier. And I'm going to start from here, click my middle section for my hand, and straight down. And from here, I can click straight down to this finger. I'm going to go to my perspective view now, and you'll notice that that all is up. So I'm going to move them down So the inside the actual hand. The same with this. I'm going to move it down into the finger. And this down. Alright. Now we have that. I'm just going to duplicate this. So you can edit. You can duplicate that. And just move it to the side. And again, I'm going to duplicate. Side. Control D, again, to the side. I'll make another one. Top view, I'm going to move this over here and start moving the finger location where this should go. I thought he was already on here, so I'm going to add him again so I don't accidentally select. Okay, go my perspective view, and I want to move them up in the right location or down depending on which one it is. I'm going to make sure that they are indeed inside the hand properly. Move this back to where it should go in a good location. The thumb's going to be a bit different from the rest. Okay. With that being said, I need to go in here and I want to match the rotation of it to the finger. So if I look at this right now, turn my wireframe on, and now it's a little bit hard to see. Let's turn off that. I want to make sure that this rotation of this joint right here matches that of the finger. And here it's not perfectly, I'm going to turn it slightly and match the rotation. And this again is just by eyeing it, just looking at it and trying to match it best you can just by sight. This, I can't use the same top because technically it's on the side over here, so I'm going to rotate this so it matches that angle across. Again, that's like drawing a flat line right here and a line coming straight off of it. That's what I'm looking at. Once I have all of that, I'm going to click on my object, select hierarchy. I'm going to freeze my transformations, which then realigns all of them with the way they should be. And because I was moving things up and down a lot, you need to also, skeleton, reorient your joint. So once it's reoriented, check some of the things. That needs to be fixed. Because now I can actually see the angle which they were rotated. And there we go. Select hierarchy. Freeze your transformations. And we're good. Now we just need to insert all the extra joints inside. So I'm going to go inside now and use Insert Joint tool and just click and drag the joint in where they need to go. And because we already made sure the orientation and everything is right, every single new joint coming in will all be proper. Again, this Insert Joint tool works better in orthographic, so try to do it in orthographic. I'm going to drag this in there, one in here, and I'm going to have to move some of these. So I'm going to just hold D, just move this out. I'm going to look at this inside this view because it was harder to see before. And based off of that, I need to rotate some of these things. Actually, that was realigned improperly, so I'm going to move this up together. Rotate them all down together. Select the hierarchy. I'm going to freeze my transformations. And there I go. Now comes the fun part. We need to go through and rename everything. So I'm just going to call this thumb01 underscore joint. I'm just going to select this and copy it down. 2, 3, 4, index of 1 joint. I'm just going to copy this again. 2, 3, 4, middle of 1 joint, 2, 3, 4, ring a 1 joint, copy that, 2, 3, 4, pinky a 1 joint, oops, I didn't copy it, 3, 4, hand joint. Let's get a wrist joint. Elbow joint. Shoulder joint. And clavicle joint. Now we have all of those. I'm going to go right here, modify prefix hierarchy names, left underscore, and I'm going to create an IK handle real quick. IK right here, using the IKRP straight across, and I'm just going to name this left arm IK. Select this joint here, skeleton mirror joint tool, and when you cross Y and Z based on the plane right here, do an L underscore followed by, replace with an R underscore, apply, and go inside again, create my IK I need, right arm IK, and just with that I have a very simple rig system. I'm going to take these two here, shift click that section, edit parent, and there we go. We have a very basic rig created for our character. I hope that was useful and cleared up some of the questions you students had, at least for the difference between Maya 2011 and 2012.